Good day to you. Cause and effect. We're going to be talking about cause and effect, right? Cause is why something happened, and the effect is what happened. So if you think about cause and effect as I didn't brush my teeth, I didn't brush my teeth is the cause. What's the effect? I got 5 cavities. Okay. Why something happened and what happened? Why something happened? Well, I didn't brush my teeth. That's why something happened. Well, what happened? I got 5 cavities. Okay. Studied for the test. And because you studied for the test, you did the best that you could. Or I passed. Okay. Cause and effect. It was windy in October. Well, we know now in El Dorado County or in California that if it's windy in October, the power goes out. Okay. Now, if look at this is like a chain of events here. Okay. So if it was windy in October, then the power went out. Well, the power going out has its own effect. Well, why something happened? The power went out. Or the power cops came over, as my daughter June is saying. The power went out. What's the effect? No school. Schools are closed. Okay. So, cause and effect. Why something happened and what is it that happened? Now, how do you identify this kind of stuff when you are reading something such as Earth changes? Well, change is an effect, right? What are the causes of change? What are the causes of changes here on Earth? The sun came out and the temperatures warmed up. What's the effect? The flowers begin to bloom. So, in talking about change, we're talking about cause and effect. But how do you identify that? Well, usually what the case is going to be is first, you're going to be reading a sentence, and that sentence is going to have the cause in it. And then the next sentence or preceding sentences, within the next few sentences, you're going to get the effect. Okay. So we are reading out of our Earth Changes book, and our first article is on earthquakes. So earthquakes is going to be a great way to explain cause and effect and help us to identify some causes to their effects. But I would like to remind you, Mr. Tillish's class, that your read aloud for your benchmark book. Okay, if you would like to listen to a read aloud, all you got to do is go to Mr. Tillish's Google Classroom, go to classwork, virtual learning reading, and then over here in virtual learning reading, you have benchmark Unit 8, Earth Changes. Okay. And what you have in here is your clever login. This is what you click on so that you can open up your read aloud book. That way the article can be read aloud to you if you're not in the mood for reading to yourself. Okay, so do that now and then come back to the tutorial so that you're prepared to talk about cause and effect and talking about earthquakes. Okay, so Now that you've read the article, and you may have been going through as you're reading that article and trying your best to locate cause and effect. Okay. Earthquakes. Well, every day on average, 50 earthquakes are detected on the Earth's surface. I'm just sort of going to summarize some of the important things that were read here. Why do some earthquakes cause major destruction and others almost unnoticed? And it's all about energy, okay? Stored energy, right? Tension that's finally released, that would resemble the earthquake. Okay, so what causes earthquakes? There's our clue word right there. What causes earthquakes? And then what are the effects? So when we're talking about earthquakes, we're talking about plates. So underneath the ocean, there are all of these plates, and these plates float on, not on the ocean water, but they float on the magma, the molten lava beneath the surface of the earth. And when it's floating, it creates opportunity for the plates to move. And historically, for hundreds of millions of years, our plates have been moving, and it even causes the continents to shift a little bit. So I'm going to take a look here at paragraph number 2, and I want to read, and I want to locate some cause and effect sentences. Okay. This thin outer layer is made of many interlocking pieces called tectonic plates. That sounds just kind of like a fact, right? It's not causing anything, right? It's just a fact. So I'm going to continue reading. These plates float on a layer of hot molten rock and move as slowly as fingernails grow. Okay, so that's just telling me that, well, these plates are floating. Now, because they're floating, what happens? As they move, they rub against one another. Oh, so they move, and when they move, they rub up against one another. That sounds like a cause and effect um, phrase there that's telling me something is happening. So as I go and I start to look at my worksheet here for cause and effect, it's page number 3, and it's titled Close Reading Purpose, and it is filled with our boxes, cause, effect, and signal words and phrases. You know, what told us that we were reading a cause, and then how do we know that we got to the effect? So for this example, as they move, they being your plates, as so what happened? Plates move. Plates move. The effect, they rub up against one another. Rub against one another. And it builds up pressure. Okay. So when I'm looking at that, I am trying to figure out, one, what are my signal words or phrases as they move, as they study, as they monitor the wind. Well, the clue word here is, this word as. As is a clue word. As something is going on, something is going to happen, right? As the students continue with virtual learning, the effect will be your independent learning skills will strengthen, right? So the word as is going to tell you that there is possibly a cause and effect scenario going on. Let's take a look at another possible cause and effect. When these plates shift or collide at their boundaries, an earthquake happens. Oh, so I read the word when. When the wind is blowing hard in October, the power is going to go out. Okay. When you study for some sort of a test or when you practice, you're going to do your best. Okay. When plates, so the cause, plates shift and collide, right? So plates are going to shift and they're going to collide, and I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to animate that for you here in just a second. But plates shifting and colliding, well, what's going to happen? What's the effect? An earthquake happens. An earthquake happens. Right? So you have shifting, right? Shifting side to side, okay? And then colliding. You know, plates are actually moving beneath the surface of the earth, right? Sort of floating around, and then eventually they're going to collide. And when they collide, you know, the land, the coastal land is going to uprise, okay, creating mountain chains. So we can illustrate that actually talking about the Himalaya mountains. But let me first leave you with this. One, I want you to go through and find two cause and effect relationships within the pages here, pages 4 and 5. What's your purpose? Well, you're going to be reading pages 4 and 5. And why are you going to be doing that? To find examples of cause and effect. Okay, so did the first two for you, some signal words as, when, signal words for, oh, there's going to be a cause and effect or relationship coming about here within the next sentence or two when you're reading. So you have two other examples. I'm pretty sure that I found 3 or 4 other examples within this passage on pages 4 and 5. But let's take a look at the Himalayas. So now plates shifting and colliding, what does all of that mean? Well, a long time ago, okay, 250 MY, that would be 250 million years ago, geologists and scientists believe that the Earth's surface was one supercontinent. And they had a name for this supercontinent, and it was called Pangea. And you can see these supercontinents, they had their tectonic plates, but in these plate lines, those were kind of weaknesses, areas where they could easily break apart. And that's exactly what happened. So as you know, the plates started to shift, you can see India down here. Now, what happens? Well, these plates are going to shift. Eurasia, the North American plate, African plate, South American plate, you know, Australian, Antarctica plate, and the Indian plate. I'm highlighting India because it's the border of India and China, somewhere up here close to where this Eurasian plate is. They eventually collide with each other. And that what happens is those plates collide and it causes, one, massive earthquakes, but two, it also causes the landscape to change on both the Indian coast and the Chinese coast. Because the two of them are colliding together, they're going to cause mountain ranges to form and valleys and rivers and low points and high points on the Earth's surface. So when all of that is happening, we can take a look here, and what we'll see is, one, here we have India, and it's moving. Here it is. It's moving, and it's moving, and it's moving, and I'm terribly sorry for the cruddy picture. But if you look at the larger scale here, you know, India is moving here. China is going to be moving north of where the Indian plate's going to be, and it's going to move and move and move and move and move, and eventually it collides right here with the Eurasian plate. And that is what is happening in this picture right here. And as soon as it gets there, it gets close, 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 it ends up colliding with the Eurasian plate, and it forms the Himalaya mountains. So let's take a look here. It's about a 2-minute video, 70 million years in 2 minutes. This is the Himalayas forming. And so what you're looking at here is the Indian plate, right here to the left, and then your Eurasian plate right here to the right. So again, looking at your picture, okay, on the left-hand side, you got the Indian plate, and then you have the Eurasian plate, okay? And you can see how it's moving. And at 70 million years ago, this is where that plate was, all right? So it got close, but now we're going to watch what happens as 70 million years passes for a good example of plates colliding with each other, okay? Some intense music. So you can see these plates are getting closer and closer together, right? This Indian plate is moving towards the Eurasian plate, which we know is China. So as this is happening, this is really talking about paragraphs 4 and 5, the Earth's changing surface. And earthquakes have a massive effect on the Earth's surface. You can see how, in just a moment, how the Earth's landscape is going to change. Mountains and valleys, rivers, oceans, are forming based on groups of land. So they're still colliding. We're kind of getting this view from the Earth's surface. You can see how low points are forming and high points are forming. When water hits the Earth's surface, it has no choice but to run into the low points, and that's where your rivers are formed, your valleys. That's why California's Central Valley is so fertile, surrounded by these mountain chains that were formed by tectonic plates colliding. Cause and effect. Plates move, mountains form. Plates move, earthquakes happen. The Earth changes. What's one way that the Earth changes? Well, tectonic plates move. What happens when tectonic plates move? They form these massive mountains right here. Possibly looking at old Mount Everest right here. It's pretty tall. You can see the low points forming the rivers, high points forming the mountain peaks, and so on. So that is